Thank you. So I'm not going to use a microphone. I think I speak loud enough. If anyone can't hear me, just shout out to speak up. I'm Mark Williams. I'm the CEO of a company called Raindrop Products. We are a manufacturer of children's aquatic play products. We've been in the business about 35 years. Real quick, I don't claim to be an expert in inclusive play. I do not stand before you as someone who is schooled and versed in the ideas of inclusion. I'm an advocate for inclusive play. And I love the fact that we have so many people here today. Obviously, if you're here, you have somewhat of an interest as well. And I make toys that spray water. That's what I do for a living. And the idea of doing this and being more inclusive and changing the direction of our industry is something that really excites me. And I have a passion for this topic. Super glad you guys came to hear me talk today. And I'll tell you what I know. First thing, though, I want to disclaim myself and say, as much as I would love to make this a 1-hour commercial for Raindrop Products, I won't do that to you. That's not what they asked me to do. And Illinois Parks and Rec asked me to come talk about inclusive aquatic play. And that's what I'll do. I'll be happy to tell you about all the wonderful things that Raindrop Products can do. Come to my booth. But that's not what the next hour will be about. The next hour is going to be about the topic of inclusive aquatic play. The other thing that I'm not going to do today is I'm not here to sell the benefits of children's play. You folks know more about children's play than you've forgotten more than I know. Conversely, I'm not here to talk about the benefits of inclusive play. If you're here, you care. There are doctoral dissertations that have been written, probably by some of you, about the benefits of inclusive play. Those are givens. We're going to talk about how we can be inclusive in aquatics. And I expect that the benefits of inclusive play and the fact of children's play are going to be givens. What are we going to talk about? The first thing we're going to talk about, why focus on aquatics? We've got dry play dollars. Dry play, that's our word for the playgrounds and the slides and stuff. So we're wet play, they're dry play. Why focus on the aquatics side? Well, why should those be where we put our inclusive dollars? What the heck is it? What is inclusive aquatic play? What's the definition? We're going to talk about how our actual industry, just the embeds, the stuff that comes out of the ground, how they're already very, very inclusive. Our industry, haven't been pitching it that way. We've been pitching it a different way. It's fun, it's different, it looks cool. How about the above grounds? They're already very, very inclusive. They have many inclusive characteristics. We just haven't been talking about it. They have been in the dry play world. They've been extolling the virtues of the inclusivity in dry play for many years, but in aquatics, we've been squirting water. Finally, we're going to discuss how minor little improvements we can make to our core features to make them fundamentally more inclusive without spending a lot of money. It's not going to cost a lot of money to make an inclusive aquatic playground. Why focus on aquatics? So we've got public dollars, we've got playgrounds. They've been doing this for 20 years in dry play. They are so well versed, and every major manufacturer has a full line of inclusive dry play products. They're very good at it. All I've done is try and say, golly, let's take some of their ideas and some of the things that they're trying to achieve and let's bring them into water. But why do it in water? First thing, this Recreation Management Magazine does a State of the Industry every year, and they interview some 2,000 people, and the number one most requested amenity for the last 7 years, 6 of the last 7 years, has been splash pads. So it's you folks who are answering these surveys. And you're telling me, 2,000 of you are telling me the number one most requested amenity has been a splash pad area. 1 year, a couple years ago, we lost out to synthetic turf. They had a big year. But we have done pretty well in the last 7 or 8 years. So the first thing I tell you is you folks, the managed recreation industry, is thinking about splash pad areas. Therefore, we should be thinking about inclusion. I'm a computer geek, I admit it. If you don't know what Google Trends is, it's a neat place to go where you can gauge the popularity of a thing. And you can put in anything. And to give you an idea, if you don't know, because I'm a geek, I put in the term iPad. And the word didn't exist up until April 3rd of 2010 when Mr. Jobs introduced us to this word called iPad. And as you can see, the amount of searches from then on have gone up and up and up, and with each one of these new releases, you can see it's a surge in popularity, but it's kind of a cool way to gauge the popularity of a thing. And I use that to introduce this, which is if you do the same thing, you type in the word splash pad, you see that we're not even on the map. We don't even have enough Google searches and up until 2009 to even be registered. But since then, each and every year, more and more people are thinking about this thing called splash pad. And it rises and falls with the seasons. Obviously, that's a July peak of every year. And it's moms saying where's the nearest splash pad. It's not saying, hey, I want to build one with Raindrop products. It's just people thinking about this concept called splash pad. But look what it's done in 2 years. I mean, we've got a 30% increase. We've doubled since 2014. It's a thing. People are thinking about these worlds called splash pads. And for that, I say, we should also be thinking about inclusiveness in these splash pads. Another reason is these folks, it becomes a community gathering place. It's not just the kids who have fun at a splash pad. Moms have fun having little play dates with their friends in Starbucks, and they get together, and they become places that the whole community gathers. Because of the reduced liability and safety issues, it also becomes a place where people meet their neighbors, say hello, do things that they don't normally do when you're at the pool and you've got your eyes on the kids, and it becomes a community gathering place. As such, I think it's a pretty good place to think about the principles of inclusivity. Dry play, they've done it. They're so much more well-versed in the idea of inclusion than I. But here's the problem. We have some advantages over dry play. One, we're already pretty wheelchair friendly. We didn't even know it, but we were wheelchair friendly. We didn't even go out of our way to become wheelchair friendly, but we are. We're not dealing with the disadvantages of sand and all of the obstacles that some of the things you have to deal with in a dry play environment. So we've got that going for us. I'm going to discuss how our core features already have a whole bunch of inherent inclusiveness to them. And then I mentioned how with a little bit of investment, with a little bit of change, with a little bit of thought in the design stage, we can make a project entirely inclusive. And it doesn't cost a lot of money to be inclusive. And then of course, the core idea, if we make something that is only attractive to a child with special needs, we have not achieved our goal. It's actually the reverse. We want to do something that all children can play together. And we don't need to change anything. Our stuff is always going to squirt water. It's always going to make kids happy. It's always going to be fun. But if we can add a little bit of stuff to it to make it inclusive, we've really, really won. Another reason we should be thinking about this is 12.6% of the U.S. population has some form of disability. They're a statistically significant portion of the population, and as such, we who are spending public dollars in public spaces should be thinking about this statistically significant portion of the population. The final reason we should be thinking about aquatics is, quite frankly, it's the right thing to do. We have these children who have been faced with an additional challenge in their life, and we have the means to provide a play value to them, why not? We're spending lots of public money and in public spaces. It's the right thing to do. So I stand before you as an advocate of this whole idea. And I'm going to tell you a story. Sometimes they say in life you learn more from your failures than you do your successes. This is one of those stories. And it's about a place called Morgan's Wonderland. And this gentleman right here is Gordon Hartman. And the lady to his left, over, is Morgan Hartman. His daughter, she has special needs. And Maggie Hartman is to his right. And he's a really, really rich guy. He made a lot of money in the home building business in San Antonio, Texas, and dedicated the first half of his life to building homes and making money. Because of Morgan, he saw her struggling to have friends and how people struggled to be around her because of her special needs. He one day decided to dedicate the second half of his life to helping children with special needs. Put his money where his mouth is, put $10 million of his own dollars and $15 million of Toyotas to build a place called Morgan's Wonderland. Morgan's Wonderland is the Disneyland of all amusement parks for children with special needs. One day, he realized that it's hot in San Antonio, Texas. And he decided to capitalize on the success, which is Morgan's Wonderland, and he decided to build a place called Morgan's Inspiration Island. This was a couple years ago. I was in Las Vegas at a Aquatics trade show. It was the third day, which is probably 2 days long to be in Las Vegas. I was ready to go home. And this group walked up to me with this drawing. And they said, we're looking for a company that can make organic, thematic stuff that sprays water. I'm like, that's exactly what I do. And they're like, well, our budget's about $5 million. And I said, you said $5 million? I work with cities and towns and municipalities. I never heard the word million. And they said, yeah, we have about a $5 million budget for the toys. And we don't want to build an aquatic park with stairs and climbing and slides. We want to build the mother of all splash pads. And I took the paper and I got on an airplane and I stared at it the whole way home. And for the next 2 months, it was all I thought about. I'm like, this project is going to make media and news, and it's also, what a resume, what a wonderful, and by the way, we're going to do something good for children with special needs. I'm like, it doesn't get any better than this. So I focused on this project for the next 6 months of my life, as did the majority of my company, and we got shortlisted to the final 2. So I got to come back to San Antonio to do my final presentation, and I was going to wow them. Because I just knew I had it. It was perfect for my business. And I showed them, in my last presentation, I showed them structures with transfer stations. And I'm like, oh, they're going to like that. And I showed them features, wheelchair-friendly features that we have. And I'm like, oh, they're going to just love that. And I showed them slides that had transfer stations. And I'm just like, oh, they're going to love my presentation. The final thing was, you can't read that, but in 2010, we won an award. We actually won a Best of Aquatics award for a special needs accessible playground. And I'm gonna close by showing them these slides of these children in chairs, and I'm like, they're gonna hand me the purchase order right there. They're gonna stop the presentation, hand me the purchase order, and $5 million. Sometimes when you give a presentation, you can tell when the audience gets it, and sometimes you can tell when they don't. This was one of the ones where they don't. I could tell that the people, the Hartmans that I was talking, I wasn't saying what they wanted me to say. I showed them great pictures and I told them a lot of words, but I didn't say the thing that they apparently wanted me to say. So I packed up my bag, I got on the cab, went to the airport. I had kind of befriended one of the people on the landscape architect team, and I called her up and I'm like, what the hell happened? Things were going so well. And she said, Mark, they were looking for you to say something that was going to maximize the sensory experience for children of all abilities. The phrase changed my life, changed my business, changed the mantra of my business. Maximize the sensory experience for children. I talked about wheelchairs. So this lesson cost me $5 million. I give it to you for free. But accessible does not mean inclusive. Accessible is a core component of being an inclusive project. But in and of itself, we didn't get there. We didn't become inclusive because we were wheelchair friendly. I made wheelchair friendly stuff. And I'll be honest with everyone today, the project that we actually won the award for, we didn't even make anything on that project different than all my other stuff. We didn't even go out of our way to include the wheelchair accessible water cannon. That's not even on that project. I gave them the same standard one that I sell to everybody else. The kid had to wheel up to the side of and lean over. That's how embarrassed. All we did was, we're already accessible. But it takes more to be inclusive. So $5 million, that's what it cost me. This is Morgan's Inspiration Island. It was manufactured by Whitewater, one of my competitors. If anyone here is from Whitewater, I give you credit and kudos. It's amazing, awesome place. What they did, what the Hartmans did, it's awesome. And I'm jealous. I wish I could have been part of the project, but I wasn't. It is the gold standard in inclusive play. And I'm a jealous competitor of this project. I fully admit it. Now, giving all of those kudos and credit to my competitor, which they deserve, I stand before you not as disgruntled guy who came in second place, but I will tell you that we can do more. There is more that can be done, that these wonderful people did an awesome job, but we can do more. They made an awesome wheelchair-friendly park. I'm saying, and I'm asking for people who are in this world and who could influence change to think about what else can we do? That's the gold standard. I give them credit, they're awesome. We can do more. I knew it was going to get press, and it got a lot of press. This is an article just from October 2017 from On the Town magazine. Inclusion makes a big splash at Inspiration Island. Another article, world's first water park for, now remember, mine was 2010, but they didn't know about that one. World's first water park for people with disabilities, literally the coolest thing ever created. This one killed me, Time magazine. I would kill to be in Time magazine. That would be awesome. First all-accessible water park opens in Texas. There were part of me that wanted to send a little letter to Miss Ashley Hoffman and say, no, it's not the first, but I didn't. They got the credit, and it's cool. So I was able to survive the losing this project and going on, and I gained something from it, right? I gained a mantra for my company. I gained an understanding of what inclusion really means. So I learned from it. I'm a better person for it. My company is going to do better things because of it. We're short $5 million, but all was okay in the world until one night I sat down to watch the news.
We end this summer evening at a special place for special kids. Omar Villafranca is there.
An afternoon at a water park is one of the best ways to cool down. Something 10-year-old Hayden Young has never enjoyed until today.
Are you having fun?
The fifth grader with cerebral palsy is splashing around at Morgan's Inspiration Island in San Antonio, the first water park built for all kids, even ones in wheelchairs. The water park features accessible splash pads, a river ride built for wheelchairs, and even has a first-of-its-kind waterproof wheelchair powered by compressed air.
How long from idea to this place being built?
About 3 years.
The park was created by San Antonio businessman Gordon Hartman. He came up with the idea after watching other children at a pool party shun his special needs daughter because of her disability.
The way she looked at me, that look of, Dad, I don't understand, she couldn't tell me, but she could tell me with her eyes, and she did, and that stuck with me.
Hartman turned to doctors, therapists, and people with special needs to create the 4-acre, $17 million park. He opened it this summer and named it after his daughter, Morgan.
I want to have a life of significance in a bigger way. I couldn't ask for anything. I mean, Morgan's taught me so much, this has taught me so much.
Hartman also made the park financially accessible. Disabled guests like 7-year-old Rhea Edison get into the park for free.
This is the first time you've been here?
Yes.
And how many more times do you want to come back this summer?
17.
What is it like to see Hayden in the water, just being a 10-year-old kid?
Oh, it's so much fun. He is having such a great time, and making him happy makes me happy.
Happy and cool in a place where kids can beat the heat and their limitations. Omar Villafranca, CBS News, San Antonio.
And that is significance, ensuring every kid has fun.
So it's a tough night watching that. But Mr. Hartman, Gordon Hartman, has a funny, they mentioned in that news story that children with special needs get in free. And in one of his speeches, he talks about how, I don't know what the definition of special needs is. He says, but if you have to lie about whether your son or daughter has a special need, well then, my friend, you can get in free too because you have a special need. So that's Morgan's. All right, so what is inclusive play? What's the definition? So because I'm a computer geek, I went to Google. And the first thing, if you Google inclusive play, you get 11,400,000 hits. That's a thing, right? There's lots of stuff out there about inclusive play. If you Google inclusive aquatic play, in quotes, you get 80. If you only have 80 hits on Google, you're not a thing. You're a misspelling. So the first hit, the most popular hit on Google for inclusive aquatic play is actually a false positive. It's age-inclusive aquatic play. So they weren't even using the term in our world. The second most popular hit on all of the Googleverse is a link to a presentation I did 3 months ago. The third most popular link on Google is to a link to a presentation that I did 5 months ago. And I'm not bragging. I'm just saying it's not a thing. I'm making stuff up. I get it. I told you earlier I'm not an expert in inclusive play because I don't know inclusive aquatic play. Sure as hell I'm not an expert in inclusive play. But it doesn't exist. There isn't one. So what I'm trying to be is an advocate to find people who care and build some new cool stuff. So, $5 million lesson, we learned that ADA and compliancy, the principles of universal design, are all inherently important in our design of our inclusive project, but we're not done yet. So I came up with my own definition. I made it up. And I made it up with the help of, it was actually Maggie Hartman who said, she wanted something, an aquatic play environment comprised of features that maximize the sensory and cognitive stimulation for children of all physical and mental, and by the way, it should say abilities, but that's the first half. But you gotta have the second half designed to encourage all children to play together and on the same features. 2 components, maximize sensory experience, play together. Not that hard. If I had had a brain, I could have sold that to the Hartmans beforehand because my stuff already does that. But I touted wheelchair friendly. All right, what does that mean? So we have 7 senses, I've learned. I used to think it was only 5, but tactile, touch, audible, hearing, sounds, visual, sight, gustatory is our taste sense, Olfactory is smell. Proprioceptive is body awareness. Where is your hands and your head and your legs in relation to the rest of your body? Didn't know that was a sense. I've learned. Vestibular is about movement and balance. And so our goal is to maximize those senses. Weight, gustatory, we're going to take out. We have enough problems in this industry with kids drinking water. So we're not going to do the gustatory sense. I'm going to focus our attention today on the others. And in fact, I'm going to tell you that while smell is something that I think we could bring into a project if you really wanted, I think our time would be better spent focusing on the other senses. So we're going to eliminate gustatory. Then we have to keep in mind that children with special needs can be either hyposensitive or hypersensitive, and by the way, they may change within the day. So we have to be cognizant of creating products and designs that appeal to both senses. And remember that it might switch in the middle. So we have to be cognizant of hypo and hypersensitive. All right, but the laminar jet, everyone's got one. They're awesome. For me, I'm in this business, I can't stop looking at it. It shoots out this glass rope. It's quiet. It's soft. And we've been selling them for many, many years. But I never thought about it from the perspective of how different that product is from this one, which is the foam geyser, that's what we call it. It's big and airy and gushy and sends out this white frothy bubbles, and it's totally different than the other. If you're a child with low vision, those are two totally different senses. The tulip jet, totally different visual, totally different audible, totally different tactile feel. These are things that we all have. We call them different stupid names, but it's the same thing. But think about it now, if you just had an embed-only project, and I have a lot of those, but I never touted them as inclusive. But wow, those are different sensory experiences. And if you close your eyes and try and walk around one of these projects, you're right where that kid with low vision is. And those are different stimuli. Tactile, audible sound. It's totally different. Above ground features, the misting feature, it hisses. It looks like a smoke or a fog. It's gentle, it's soft. It's a lot different than the dumping bucket, right? It's wave of water, it's thunder, it's a turbulent water. But designed correctly, you put enough of the right stuff in a project, we haven't done anything different. This is my catalog. This is my current stuff. It's a different visual experience. It's a different audible experience. It's a different tactile experience. The dumping fish. We're providing a sensory experience, and we didn't know it. If you combine them all, pretty good stuff. The dry play folks have been trying to do this for 20 years, and they just didn't have the advantage that I have. But that's inclusive. We just didn't spin it that way. Other products, and again, these are not specific to Raindrop, but the drums, you beat on the drums, the water, we're still spraying water. We haven't stopped spraying water. We're going to do that all the time. But we're introducing vestibular, and we're introducing proprioceptive, and it sounds audible. The children are dictating the drums. The piano, everyone's got a piano, but think about it. It's visual, it's audible, it's tactile, it's vestibular, it's proprioceptive. The runnels, the pools and runnels, the kids are manipulating what's happening, where the water is going. The point is, the core product line in the aquatics world has lots of inclusive features. We just weren't spinning it that way. Certainly organic features, underwater, we're stimulating whales and dinosaurs. We're stimulating the children's cognitive development. That's easy. Fun and easy to do. The tactile feel, so on this lizard or whatever it is, you can feel the bumps. And on the coral reef, we can put a gritty surface to make it distinct from the jellyfish and other stuff. So one of them's kind of gritty and hard, and one of them's smooth and soft and got a latexy. To a child with low vision, you just changed the game. You brought them to the table. Same thing with a surfboard. We can put a latexy, rubbery surface on the ball, grit on the sand, and then smooth on the surfboard, and you just provided a totally different tactile stimulation for them. What is happening in wind? The idea, though, is this industry has been evolved from the irrigation industry, and we've got controls and computers and stuff that can do so much more. Why not bring in that interactive cause and effect, action, reaction, ability? And again, it's not just from an inclusive standpoint, it's an interactive standpoint that everyone is going to like. So Bill, you're not allowed to answer this, but what is the most fun feature that we in Aquatics make? Does anyone know? The dumping bucket. Who thinks dumping bucket? It's fun. Water cannons are fun. So I spent a lot of time developing a new control technology with my company, and so I spent a lot of time on site. And turns out that the most fun feature that we, not just Raindrop, and Aquatics make is the one damn thing that doesn't shoot water. It's the motion polymer. The kids, what happens is, whatever the cycle, the sequence is, it plays for 15 minutes, and the kids activate it. And then, because we want to prevent water hammer, at the end of the sequence, we slowly start to turn off valves. And the kids are like, shh, shh, shh. And they hear it happening, and and they make a beeline over there to be the next kid to activate it. And I thought to myself, I saw one big brother beat up a little brother because he got there too quick. And I'm like, we're focusing our attention in the wrong place. If that's the thing that everyone thinks is fun, let's put the fun everywhere. Let's make everything activated. Let's make that cause and effect, action, reaction, that cognitive learning, let's put it everywhere. The activators are inexpensive. And we can make it so that the children are dictating what is happening in wind. So I said earlier that I'm not an expert in inclusive play, certainly not inclusive play or inclusive aquatic play. Because of that, one of my employees suggested that we team up with the university in our town. It's called Ashland University, and we teamed up with the College of Education, the special needs education students specifically. And what we did was we met with them and we just said, listen, we don't know. We make toys that squirt water. Help us become a leader in this thing called inclusive play. And so we sat down with them, and it was a super bright group of kids and professors, and they got credit for it. And we spent the semester kind of going through our product line and figuring out, what of our current stuff already has inclusive traits, and what could we do to make other stuff that also was inclusive? And I learned a lot. Quite frankly, everything I know about this came from them. Very, very first meeting, I'm sitting with this group of students, and one of the young ladies raises her hand, and she says, Mark, have you ever considered putting tactile ground surface indicators as a barrier to a splash pad? And I said, what the hell is a tactile ground surface indicator? Turns out, I cannot go anywhere without seeing tactile ground surface indicators because they're everywhere. I didn't know it because I didn't have a knowledge of special needs. But turns out these things are at every intersection in America. It's a known entity in the low vision world. These people who are faced with that challenge know what to do when they get to a tactile ground surface indicator. Then I learned that they make these tactile ground surface indicators with different bumps that are spaced out differently at different depths, and they mean different things to to people with low vision. So not only could you make a perimeter around your splash pad with a known thing that is out there that they know, but you could actually give them guidance as to where to walk and where to go, where to get wet, where to avoid getting wet. I'm like, well, that's pretty brilliant. I actually employed her. She became my inclusive intern because she was a smart young lady. She also said, Mark, most of these things are brushed concrete, right? And I said, yeah. And she said, we could brush the concrete a certain way as a path from feature to feature. And then when the kids weren't in line to get to them, that we could brush it a different way. And I'm like, that's stupid simple. And I would have never thought of it in a million years. And it didn't cost us anything. We're going to brush the concrete anyway. So it's those little things that we can do to provide, to give an inclusive characteristic to a park that otherwise wouldn't. So our other advantage that we have over dry play, and I've learned a lot of what I know about inclusive play from the dry play folks. But the one thing that we have that they don't have is a computer and electricity. You don't find electricity at a slides and computers. So we have this thing that's got to control this manifold and pump and turn things off. But we already have it. We've already paid for it. And it's, at least ours, is running a Windows 10 operating system, so it's got a lot of smarts. And right now, all it's doing is waiting for someone to come in front of that bollard, and according to a schedule, it's going to turn on the park. Why not lever that computer that you've already paid for and let it do some of what it can do? It's a computer. I mean, it can do so much more. We can give it action, reaction, cause and effect, if, then. We can give it so many things. I mean, I envision a day where we build structures that have a series of buttons, and the children are hitting this, and stuff is happening over there. And they're doing things because we already paid for the computer. It already has the brains. It's not an upcharge. It's not an upcharge to go inclusive and get the extra bells and whistles. It's just a design thought that has to be done at the front end. LED lights, they're absolutely my favorite. Our worlds are converging. So the fountain industry is converging with the aquatic play industry. More and more often am I getting projects where during the daytime they want the projects to be fun for the children, but at night we want them to be the Bellagio. I get that a lot. I haven't gotten any Bellagio budgets, but I get a lot of Bellagio requests. I have one project last summer where they fenced up the project at night. So I was able, because we have to be very cognizant of our exit velocity so that we don't push too much water out and potentially hurt people. But at night, when it's locked up, now I had a little more Bellagio access. So between 7 and 11 on the hour, we had a project that had some LED embeds, and they did a nightly 15-minute LED show. And what happened, the park guy, he said what happened was people started scheduling their walks at night, in 7, 8, 9 o'clock, and he would just get a gathering for the 15-minute show, and then at 8 o'clock the next group would come in, and I'm like, that's awesome. What a cool way to use, you know what the incremental increase is to add LEDs to my embeds? It's hundreds of dollars. I mean, it's nominal. Compared to what we're doing with the entire project, the ability to give it a little Bellagio, too cool. So these two products, the one on the left exists in the world, but it does not exist as I'm about to show it to you. It's on an Air Force base, and it has the LED lights. And so when the kids hit the activator, the lights turn on, and it looks cool, and it's fun. But what if, when they hit the lights, when they hit the activator, how cool would that be? tactile, audible, visual. We just, we added $150 pair of speakers. It didn't cost us anything. And it's an inclusive, interactive way to change the game. Now, so that didn't exist, but this one does, and I'll tell you, I think a funny story.
Surf's up, dude.
So he's got 3 buttons on the front of him, and he plays one of a series of random messages when you, and this is the other one. So I saw the GM to this facility at the last trade show I was at, and he said the kids freaked out. He said they were dancing in front of that thing all summer long. And I'm like, oh, he goes, but. And I'm like, but. He said, my lifeguards hate it. He said, if they hear Surf's Up, dude, one more time, they're going to quit. And I said, I don't care about your lifeguards. I'm like, we just provided an interactive, inclusive play experience at the cost of speakers and some LED lights. All right, so I'm winding down. I don't know how I'm doing on time. So in my learning with the kids from Ashland College, I learned about a thing called sensory rooms. I didn't know about those, but these are rooms that children with hypo or hyper sensitivities can go to relax or to be stimulated. And I don't claim, we're actually making 2 sensory rooms as kind of a favor to Ashland because of our newfound relationship. But I learned about these rooms. And I'm like, they're super cool. I'm like, golly, they're awesome. I'm like, wonder if I could make a product that was like a sensory room. And I have a product, and this is a submarine that it's in Puerto Rico. And by the way, it just went through the hurricane and is still standing, I might add. That is a commercial. I'm sorry. But, so it's a yellow submarine, right? It's easy. It squirts water. It makes kids wet. It's fun. I said, what if I took that submarine and tricked it out? And so we took the same mold. That's how we make our products, from molds. We make the product. And I took the same mold, and we gave it a different kind of time machine-y-esque paint job. And we put a lot of bells and whistles into it. And so the first one that I'll show you is if you walk up to that middle button and hit it. So that's an LED like parlor trick that I saw on YouTube. But I'm like, how cool would it be when the children walk up to it, visual, tactile, audible, to come up and have the light. Thought that was neat. But if I had another button on it that you walked up to it, and when you hit it, plays an engine noise, but also starts a vibratory motor and gives it a gentle vibration. Tactile, cognitive, visual, audible. We're hitting all the senses. And guess what? The so-called able-bodied kids are going to be hitting those buttons just as much as anybody else. So the back cavity that was on the back side of this was just a facade on that one, the one in Puerto Rico. But I said, what if we cut it out? Because it's just hollow. I said, what if we cut it out and put, have you ever seen 3D artwork like in cities like Chicago? They make these amazing, where it looks like you're going down in a cavern or falling down a cliff. So we hired one of those artists to make a glass bottom submarine. And when you come up and you hit the button, the lights illuminate and it looks like you're looking into the depths of the sea. Now remember, we haven't stopped squirting water. We're still doing all the stuff that we've always, that this is doing. We're just adding little bells and whistles that can give a different sensory experience. And when you hit this button, I couldn't get good video of it. I tried for dear life. But it does lasers. I don't know what lasers have to do with submarines, but it was the only thing I could come up with. And I'm like, it'd be cool. One is lights, and then the other is lasers, naturally. But the last thing I thought of was, what if on the hour we did, because I can't let the kids control this because they'll do it all day long, but what if on the hour I had a feature that shot out bubbles? Kids are going to go nuts. For 15 seconds every hour, the kids are going to go nuts. And yes, in 5 years, that bubble machine is going to break. I get it. For $250, you can get another bubble machine. And provide that same sensory experience to the children. I sold that submarine the first time I pitched it. It's going to open Memorial Day this year. So I want to talk about 2 Illinois projects that I think prove why being cognizant of the things that we have at our disposal from an inclusive play standpoint. So first of all, I said before, it's the right thing to do, it's popular, there's lots of reasons why we should be doing this. Now there's also, I'm a salesman, and it also helps projects move. You know, if you're going to sell, you know, your team or your council, city council, or whoever it is, on the next sprinkler park or the next inclusive aquatic playground, one of them is a lot easier to sell than the other one. Donations, fundraising, there's things that if we just spin it right, we can really develop interest. And by the way, we're still doing it. We're still doing it. I'll give you an example. So we're doing 2 projects this spring in Illinois. That one of them is in Peru, Illinois. Anyone here from Peru? So that is the same town of a gentleman named J.A. Happ, who's a professional baseball player, plays for Toronto Blue Jays, played for the Cubs, I think, and the White Sox. And the only reason I say that is because we've gotten Major League Baseball authorization to use those logos on this project. But he's donated a lot of money to this project, and we're making a baseball thing. And when the project first came to us, they didn't say a thing about inclusion. But in the corner of that first little sketch, there was a box for wheelchair, water accessible wheelchairs. And I said, maybe these people care. Maybe they have a passion. They're thinking about wheelchairs. So we got a conference call, and I went through my little pitch, and I just said, yeah, that's cool, accessible, cool, $5 million, blah, blah, blah. I said, but what about doing a little more? I mean, their whole park now, their whole project is LED lights and sound and interactives, and it's going to be an amazing project. It's going to open this Memorial Day. So if you get a chance and aren't busy on Memorial Day, I don't know how far Peru, Illinois is from you guys, but I'll be there.
About 2 hours.
2 hours? That's not far. It's awesome. It's going to be a different project. The other one that I mentioned is a town called Metropolis. Is anyone from Metropolis? They came to us with a project that, again, no requests for inclusivity. Now, you may or may not know, have the rights to all things Superman. They were Metropolis before Warner Brothers or whoever owns Metropolis, Superman. So we were able to build all this Superman stuff for them. Again, not inclusive stuff, but so one of the products was kryptonite. It's a big block, a rock, and it had these, not jagged, but these little edges of kryptonite shooting out that were going to be green. So we went back to them and said, what if we made the green parts out of clear fiberglass? And then in the inside had a green LED that just kind of, breathed a lighter and darker green. And they're like, absolutely. And we talked about inclusivity, and they're like, we got to do it. And then what else can we do? So there was also like a little cityscape that looked like Superman Metropolis, the big city. And there's a bunch of buttons on it. And now, when you hit one of the buttons, it's going to go, look, up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane, and it's going to squirt water. So my point is these are just 2 Illinois projects that we're working on where they weren't really thinking about what can we do from an audible, tactile, visual perspective. But for a very nominal increase, we're able, and they're not open yet. I mean, the submarine's going to be installed Memorial Day. These other ones are going to be installed Memorial Day. I don't have pictures to show you of these existing inclusive projects. I mean, I had to show my competitors stuff. I don't normally do that in my presentation. But my point is there's not, we are going to write the book. We could have changed the business. But it's going to take, my fellow competitors who are going to make some good stuff with, the people who are, or the invested parties who are going to design and develop these things, to one, have enough interest to show up at an hour-long, boring seminar. And two, when you do get the money and you do have the desire to build that next aquatic project, say, I listened to this bald guy who talked about inclusion. Maybe we can bring some of that stuff into our project. That's all I got to say. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'll be here. I'll be at my booth. It's 1311. But I'm happy to talk about spraying water as long as you want to talk about it.